start.
Introduce yourselves.
Yeah, I'm Dave Funk. I'm the chair of the Coleman Park Memorial Commission. Sort of recent assignment for me.
Congratulations.
Yeah.
Joe Morales, secretary with the park.
And Bob Sentz, I'm the treasurer of the park.
So I believe Joe sort of arranged for us to be able to meet with you today. You know, as managers of the park, you know, it's always been we have to seek financing to do any sort of improvements or enhancements to the park. So that's why we come to you today. We don't have the financing we get from the city and the county, for which we're thankful for, really sort of helps us, you know, on our ongoing operations, but not for any sort of improvements. So we just came up with some ideas here for some improvements that we'd like to pursue at the park. They're all of these items were listed in one way or the other with our master plan that was completed in 2011. You were here for that, I think.
Correct. Which was partially funded by the county at the time also.
So whatever we try to do, we try to, you know, do our best to comply with what was on that master plan. So that, and I just made a list of some of the items that we came up with, we thought would be nice improvements to the facility that aren't, you know, terribly expensive or difficult to maintain. So I can just go through those.
And
Do you have any other questions about that?
The source of the money, are you asking for us to consider the rescue plan, the ARPA money? Is
Or
that?
hotel tax, or what do you?
Yeah.
If
I
I would
think
say if it would be available, we would be.
Okay. We'd have to follow certain guidelines for that money. But tourism, you know, anything that enhances tourism or is connected at all with the COVID, for spatial distancing, you know, just there has to be some component of it that we can connect to make sure that we whatever we do, we really need to be audit proof.
Sure.
So that's why I'm asking when you walked in, what you were considering as far as the source of the funds. Okay.
May I add to your question?
Yep.
Okay, I would like to know what the city's commitment financially is to this, and also what amount, you know, and you know, is there grant funding going in to apply from DCNR? Where are you in the process? Has your full board at the Coleman Park approved this whole thing? Those are the questions I had, those three.
Okay. And so I just wanted to ask about the source of what you were, so when you're finishing your presentation, I'd know, you know, what would fit in where. So but continue with your presentation, I just, you know, and then we can address, you know, if somebody was writing that sequence of questions down, or we can revisit them one at a time when we get to that part of you finishing your presentation first.
With regards to city funding, I know Joe has started some initial discussions with the mayor's office also. They provide a yearly allocation to the park in the amount of, I believe we're around $44,000. As Dave said, with the county appropriation, the city appropriation, and rentals of pavilions, that basically covers maintaining the park, paying for the caretaker for the park, wages and whatnot, utilities. So the funds that we basically have coming in.
And the county appropriation, Jamie?
I think it's
20s, in the 20s somewhere.
I thought it was 19,500. I thought.
We're in the right range.
I didn't
We're in the
look
range.
last 5 minutes. I was going to
Yeah.
go.
Yeah, we're in that range. It's somewhere in that around
that's what I
20,000.
recall.
I can get it in a sec. Keep going.
But so Joe started conversation with the city as well for funding sources. I don't know that we're coming in with a specific
Well, the other
funding
thing
source that
we
were
did,
targeting, but we were just looking to provide an idea of some of the things we'd like to accomplish at the park, which is a very one of the larger community parks in the county, and a huge asset to the community, and just kind of seeing what sticks, I guess, and legislative know where we're coming from,
Yeah,
what we'd like to do.
In conjunction with, these are enhancements to the park. There's a lot of facilities at the park that need some maintenance upgrades, and we prepared a pretty long, comprehensive list of what needs to be maintenance items, like pavilions
And that's been shared with the city.
and Joe and I presented that to the mayor's office a couple months ago. I think, what'd she say, 15,000? She was gonna contribute some money
To the actual
improvement
for some of the
pavilion.
pavilions. And also the city
How
has
much
taken
is that?
That was about 16,000,
16,000.
in addition to what, they give every year.
And then also the city has taken on the administrative end of the park, where at one time, I guess, the park actually took care of that. Now, city employees actually have taken on that role as well. So not only did they increase the yearly amount that they contribute to the park, but then they also took on that added responsibility of an administrative person, so.
We must have lost an employee, I think, at that time.
Yeah. So,
And we have already have gotten some money from the hotel tax fund, as Commissioner Phillips knows, with the basketball court renovation that took place in the park in the last year or two. We took the old basketball court in the back. It was an oversized paved area with a court in the middle. It was in fairly poor condition, and now that's been renovated to a double court, where we're now holding youth leagues, adult leagues. The Sweep the Streets tournament just occurred, so it's getting a lot of activity back there.
Okay.
So that was a
That's
huge
one of the
improvement
areas
too.
you want to put the bathroom.
That's right, the bathroom
Yeah.
and the pavilion would be located in that.
Right next to it, actually.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, if you can picture, everyone's familiar with the park for the most part. You have the inner loop, and then you have the outer loop or the back loop. When you go to the back loop, that's basically where all of your utilities, when you enter that, that's basically where your utilities stop. There is no
There's no
public water or
You
sewer
got-
in the back.
And that
part
was
of
one
it.
of the criticisms from DCNR when you did the comp plan for that place.
And that was what we're doing now is we're looking to improve. Well, it's part of the whole concept to get public facilities to the back end of the park. So if we have people playing tennis, just recreating in general, the basketball courts, the pavilion in the back, which is typically used for weddings, we figured if we do a pavilion and a bathroom back there, it would be an attractive area for the public to use. And the master plan actually calls for multiple pavilions in the back. We're trying to just accomplish one at this point and incorporate a bathroom at the same time. And the location for the bathroom is pretty much the exact location where the master plan called for.
Yeah.
So we're looking to try to piece these items together. There's a lot of items in the master plan that are, to do
Yeah,
everything
yeah.
everything in the master plan would be a substantial amount of money. We're trying to start with some of the smaller projects that we think can be building blocks to get to, some of the larger things in the plan itself.
the map I handed out, commissioners, is the master plan, what they hope the park would look like at the completion.
Do you have the garage in here? Am I reading it wrong?
The garage is in there,
Shown
Commissioner.
on there.
Mhm.
It might be
It's
labeled
just
as
north of
I don't see it, that's why.
amphitheater. It's on there.
Is it on this list? Or-
Oh, I didn't,
no,
no, it's
no.
not on the
Oh.
list.
No, that's not on that list, Commissioner.
Okay.
I
Yeah, I
know what
didn't-
you're talking about.
it's on the
It's on the,
map.
but it's
On the plan.
represented on the plan, I'm
Yeah,
sorry.
not on the list.
That's all right.
Misunderstood. That is the DCNR end of things, Commissioner. We would look at that as another step where we would, ultimately, if we did the plan, we'd be looking at renovating the carriage house, which is the centerpiece of the park, which we would hopefully then generate some revenue through that, for weddings, that sort of thing. Also, the historical aspect, a small museum for the park would be in the carriage house. There would even been some talk possibly a rental space. There's different things that could happen. But right now, the carriage house is where our maintenance shop is. So we would need to build the actual maintenance shed, or shop, which is represented on the master plan, before we could do anything on the carriage house. So that's where we would look at possibly DCNR funds for that maintenance shed there.
So there would be no wisdom in including the garage here and things like a disc golf course that could wait, and then that way you could move it. I'm just thinking.
Well, I think because
before
of the,
DCNR runs out of their money.
you know, that is something we'd be looking at doing, that DCNR grant through this with the city, and then possibly matching funds if we would decide to do the splash pad, which I know, you know, we've, with council and the mayor, we've talked about, because we would need matching funds and we could possibly use the splash pad.
So you're breaking it out into two different
Yes.
grants.
And I think the items that we're looking at on this list are lower hanging fruit, that we can just try and improve maintenance wise on the park where we're at right now, add some new amenities, get rid of the golf course, put the disc golf in, get more folks in there.
The disc golf is quite a popular activity.
But the mini golf is leaving. That makes me sad.
Well, the
Progress.
Yeah, there have been multiple people that have run the miniature golf course over the years. They haven't had much success with it being revenue-wise profitable. The building needs repairs. The course itself needs repairs. To pay for that and then still making it a profitable venture has really been difficult.
The Friends group wouldn't take that on?
They've discussed it. I think they have more of an interest in the building itself, in utilizing the building for prepping for their activities, maybe holding some small gatherings and things of that nature. But they've kind of backed off a little bit on the operating of the course itself. I know Joe's had some conversations with Pam Tricamo from the Friends group too. I don't know if you have anything to add on that, Joe, but it's just. It's been a rough go, and it has that look with you enter the park. There's the miniature golf course, and it's just been a rough go with.
It's really in poor condition right now.
It is. That's true.
And I think you're seeing it nationally as well. It's just miniature golf has lost its luster, I guess. These things, I don't know if they're cyclic, but
Most things are.
you know.
Didn't seem worth the investment.
And when you look at the length of the season for the miniature golf as opposed to a disc golf course, which would be free, open to the public year round, you know, would never close basically. So
And
Very little maintenance.
and
Very
very
little
little
maintenance.
maintenance.
did your whole board then approve this plan? Did
Yes.
they vote on it?
Yeah. The strategy that we're taking is agreed upon by the board. I know Joe mentioned the low hanging fruit. I mean, we've discussed the larger. You know, if you add in a maintenance building and you add in a renovation of the carriage house, and you start talking about overall grant monies, and then the key there is matching monies. We had some monies that were provided to the park through a couple of estates that were designated for capital improvements, which would help facilitate a pavilion and a bathroom and whatnot, but we don't have the matching funds on hand to do those big ticket items. We've discussed that over time we may be able to get some matching funds like that, but it's probably going to require a capital resource campaign to try to get some, input from maybe some businesses and whatnot, and corporations in the community to try to do a capital fund and a fundraising campaign basically. Right now, if we're going to have matching funds for a grant, it's going to be for something smaller, not the big ticket. Hopefully, we get to that point in the near future.
Yeah, because you're
That's the
looking at
ga-
350,000 of an
Yeah.
ask here for somewhere.
Excuse me.
It comes to 350,000 about what's on here.
Let's see, we got 270 and another 70 on top, so 340. Now, the $120,000 for the new pavilion overlooking the ball fields and the $150,000 for the new toilet facility. In all reality, that when we were looking at that, we were looking at doing a dual facility, the pavilion with the bathroom incorporated in, which would probably take those numbers and.
Although that's
and-
sort of it's all.
And Brad would bring that down a little bit. When we initially looked at DCNR, we had a ticket price of about $180,000 for a combined facility. which we had matched. We had our 50% match for that. And that's kind of where our matching monies are right now. We're in that 70 to 80,000 range, so we can't go matching monies with DCNR for some $500,000 or $1 million project because we don't have those monies on hand currently. Hopefully, at some point, maybe we will.
My understanding of your, the history in terms of your financials is, it seems like it's always hand to mouth in terms of not having excess capital to, you know, do a lot of improvements unless you get support from other governmental or other private individuals. So I'm trying to get there, and is part of your the concert series, you know, where you have the over 21-year-old audience trying to come in so that you can maybe get
Through the Friends, that's correct.
And is that bring people from outside the county? Do you know, or is it
Yeah.
is it intended to?
It is intended to. It has been not well attended as of yet. I
I was
don't
gonna
know.
say, how'd your event go Saturday? I was hoping to get there but couldn't, but.
Yeah,
I went to one of them.
yeah. I was not. I didn't make that one either.
It seems like they're growing. The last one seemed to have more people.
Yes. I think it's a word of mouth thing. The first one this year was the weekend when there was, I swear to God, everyone in the county had something. So it's
And how about the regular series that you have?
Music in the Park
Yeah,
is well attended. That is
That's
still
well attended.
And
well
as far
attended.
as the source of people, you know, are they from what, is any?
I think it's regional, you know.
Yeah.
I mean, that's important to us because that's part of the tourism growth, trying to get people to come in and spend some money in our county.
Yeah.
The baseball teams bring it out of towners
The
too.
baseball
Yeah.
teams bring
And
in.
there- that's a very busy part of the park.
Yeah, we get with the tournaments that are held, maybe anywhere from like 12 to 15 tournaments a season. On top of other leagues playing there, the local leagues, but the tournaments bring some money to the park as far as the fees to use the fields. But as far as the people that come, I mean, we're talking pretty much the Eastern Seaboard. They get teams from New
Out of
England
state.
and down south, and it's yeah, we get
I mean, that's-
it's wide ranging as far as the number of the area that the people that come to the park for these tournaments.
And the remarks we get on the condition of our fields, Gene Long and his crew they do an amazing job. It's just beautiful fields, and we hear that all the time.
I think there's been 150 plus people at the last two concerts that are held on Saturdays with the bands. So it's growing, it really is.
Yeah,
But
we'd
I
like to see
guess
that
the
get-
bottom line question is that the only one I didn't get an answer to yet is, how much is the city putting into this? Cause they got their, well, how much ARPA money did they get?
I don't know. I know.
Was it
Joe's looking at
13
Well, we
million?
actually, and we did put out, we had a campaign basically to award ARPA money to nonprofits. In the end, since this was city property, the city decided it would probably be a bit of a conflict of interest to have us included in that, which I have to agree with. But what the mayor is doing is, again, helping us with some of the maintenance on the
But
other pavilions.
$16,000 is a drop in the bucket. I mean,
Well,
why aren't they
yeah,
funding this? What is
And
the-
they're still, we were talking about some other items as well.
So we don't have anything definitive at this point. Joe started the conversation with that initial, was it $1 million that applications came in for disbursement? And as Joe said, we did not get anything awarded, and the concept was if the city awards these monies to a city-owned property, it kind of looks like they're kind of giving money back to themselves. So the conversation, unless I'm speaking out of turn here,
No.
Joe, that you had with the mayor was, come back to us and we will try to assist you with monies outside of that $1 million allocation that was going to other nonprofits and try to accomplish some of these maintenance issues and possibly some items on here. But as far as monies designated specifically for capital improvements right now, we do not have an actual number from the
I
city
think
as far as what we
in
may
the
get.
short time that I've been on the board, I think the fundamental challenge for this park is that we have a number of facilities there that we got to maintain that other parks don't have. You know, there's the entrance house, the exit house, the
And the
ready house,
caretakers.
carriage house, caretaker's house. There's all these houses that we got to maintain, you know, just, and it's absorbs our operating expenses. You know, a typical park might have pavilions and grass to mow and
But all those
We don't have
things that
those-
we talked about, that Commissioner Phillips reviewed, make it a commanding argument for the mayor to help to fund this, you know, through her ARPA dollars. I mean, literally, I think it's like
And
13+ million.
And again, Commissioner, she's helping us with other items in the park, furnaces, roofs, that we're working on, so.
But you said $16,000.
she definitely.
Well, that was a number that we have right now, and that wasn't the end figure. And I don't have an end figure that the city is going to be able to contribute to.
Yeah, we gave her a pretty comprehensive list, and like these boilers now, we need to add that to the list.
Yeah.
So I'm pretty confident we'll get some more money from the city.
Anything else that you, or Jamie, do you have any questions? You good? Michael?
The bathroom facility, does that require the extension of water and sewer, or is that?
Right.
Well, let me, what I priced was like a pre-manufactured toilet for this facility. And it would require water, which is relatively easy to get there. And that's on the
Well,
request.
Bob works for the Water Authority, so
Bob
he
works.
would be the
And I will
expert.
say, the Water Authority has been cooperating with us,
Oh, my God.
and they're contributing.
Correct.
the
So as I
boring.
said before, the water and the sewer facilities that come into the park, once they enter the park, then they're private inside the park as far as from a maintenance perspective. However, knowing issues that we've had with water quality issues at the caretaker's house, no public water in the back of the park. In the fall, well, maybe even starting later this month, the plan is to start at the curve of that inner circle and extend the water back as far as up above the hill from the caretaker's house, and take a new water line down to the caretaker's house and to the ball fields, which will eliminate some water quality issues down there. And that gets us maybe
Short distance.
maybe two-thirds of the
Yeah.
way back to the basketball court proposed pavilion and bathroom area.
And you said
And the authorities actually has basically thrown it out there that they will cover all the costs of installation as long as the park just pays for the materials that are going to be put in the ground. So the park is making out probably paying from, I don't even know if
Sure.
it was 1/3 of the actual cost for that water installation. And from a sewer perspective, with a bathroom facility, everything in the park, basically except for where the pool was, everything in the park has their old antiquated
There's drain fields.
drain fields, vaults in the ground, whatever the Coleman family put in ages and ages ago. In the back part of the park, to tie into public sewer is almost impossible. So we checked with the city, and just to have a bathroom back there, there would be an allowance to have a holding tank that would, for a bathroom that wouldn't get excessive usage on a daily basis, or hardly any during like weekdays, work days.
Just pump it out.
We'd have it.
That's-
We would just have that pump annually, and we'd probably so that expense then kind of goes out the window. I mean, it's an expense, but it'll be a
Sure.
much more minor one than trying to get something to it. So there's a game plan there for the water and sewer part of it. So now it's more of a capital construction type issue that we have as far as getting things constructed and more facilities to use in the back of the park for the public. 'Cause we figure we have all that acreage back there.
Yeah.
And if you have a wedding or you have the basketball tournaments,
Is there
you
adequate
got to bring in a
parking?
portland. Well, I would say there's plenty of parking, but it's not necessarily
I think it needs to be
Right.
organized. a little
coordinated
better.
parking, because we have areas along the roadways and little stone areas that you could park a number of vehicles in the back of the park. But is there a parking lot? No, at this point.
Okay, I mean, I walk there from my house, it's so close,
Right.
you know.
right.
And also doing facilities in the back of the park, that's the connector point at some point
Yes.
between
That's the other
West
thing.
Lebanon,
Yes.
the Union Canal, and the rail trails to get a trail down into West Lebanon along Union Canal and kind of link all of those things together.
Isn't there
We're
money?
working
over
on
that
that.
creek.
We're working on that right now. We have grant money for that connector trail, so we can
Great.
connect it to Union Canal, which is then connected to the rail trail. So.
Fabulous.
And then that would get you into the back end of the park, and then at the back end of the park, if we can do some things back there, then all of a sudden you're walking right into where things are happening.
Sure.
So that's the game. That's the game.
I like
plan.
that idea.
Do you have to do things that qualify for ADA compliance with some of these upgrades that you want to do?
Well, we would for the pavilion and any designated parking spaces for the pavilion. We would have to make the pavilion and the parking areas, handicap accessible so people can get to
toilets
the
would certainly be
vehicles
accessible.
and the bathrooms. Yeah.
Well, I was talking with Pam Tricamo and she a few weeks ago. She was saying that like at the baseball field, for example, there would be no way that somebody who is wheelchair bound could get down there to see the games. And there was she thought one of the things that maybe should be under consideration is some sort of a platform or something where wheelchairs could be to see the games.
And that is a consideration that has been talked about at our meetings.
Because there's a steep, you get that steep embankment going down to those lower
Well,
fields.
you're right, you could create a viewing platform off the parking lot.
Which is what we'd like to do too. That's where this pavilion in the west part, you could be at that pavilion and basically just
Some of that.
be there and see the two upper fields. For the most part, you could watch your kids play, grandkids play baseball, and not have to be.
People do sit there and watch.
They do sit there. They're a little disgruntled at the beginning of the season because we don't have the park's not open until the water's on in the back. So when you get those early spring games when it's chilly out, the access to the back is limited. People get upset with that, but that, like you said, that overlooking the ball fields concept would definitely be something to pursue for people with those issues
Sounds
who can't
nice.
get down to the field. Like the fields down below, they look great from that viewpoint, but if you have a limitation,
Yeah.
you can be in great shape, and getting up and down that hill is a pain. It really is. I did it with my grandson this spring, but those are things we're looking at.
Jamie had a
Yeah, I guess I have a few. First of all, I just want to be clear and understand what's the ask today? Is this just a number of projects or, on deck here, and you're saying if the county could help out with them, that'd be great? Are you saying, hey, here's the list that we're making an ask of the county for this list? I guess I just want to be clear on that. And related to that, you talked here and there about DCNR and their master plan and so on. Have you applied for DCNR funds?
We have not applied.
Okay,
Gone through
so
that
so none
process
of
yet.
this then would become leverage or match to any grants that any of the state agencies have awarded.
No.
Okay.
But if it could be, if we could use it as such.
You'd have to do it, put your grants in now. You can't spend this money.
Yeah.
Before.
Yeah, exactly. It has to
Okay.
be, hey, we've got this in hand. Now we're going to apply. We've got 100,000 in hand. We're going to apply for 400,000, and we have a 25% match in hand. That kind of thing. So but that's not the case as we
I mean,
sit
that's
here.
not-
That is not the
That
case.
was not.
Okay, and then I heard you that and I don't, this is maybe just a moot point because maybe the city's been through all the ARPA money, but the thinking or the logic that the park, because you're a nonprofit, your board's a nonprofit, is that right? Would be potentially a conflict and so on, but the city owns the park, correct? So couldn't the city allocate just as a direct grant because of its being a city asset? And the county's contributing to Governor Dick and to the rail trail and so on because those are direct county parks. So does it have to fall into that nonprofit and so on? I mean, from what I know from ARPA, recreation is enough of a broad category that the city could say, here's X. I mean,
We've
has
had that,
okay, that's what I'm
we've had
asking
that
about.
conversation before. When we get the city allocation every year, the city owns the property.
Yeah,
Whereas when we get the county appropriation, the county does not own.
We don't have any obligation. It's a gift.
obligation. So that's why it's like the appreciative part is always there because like the county has no obligation whatsoever to give money to Coleman Memorial Park versus South Hills or
Right.
Myerstown Park, wherever.
Except that it's an asset that is,
It-
truly
correct.
appreciate the asset and all the work that you
Exactly.
guys do as
I think-
volunteers.
I think-
So I mean, it's,
Yeah, I
there's
think
an obligation
I think
that's
the history
inherent.
of it in Coleman Memorial Park, when you think of parks in Lebanon County, and historically speaking, Coleman Memorial Park is usually one of the first things people talk about and bring up.
but you did have that. You had that talk about it being a city park. Therefore, could it just be a direct recipient of the funds?
We have not.
No.
We have not had, we haven't presented it that way.
Okay.
Joe's just started initial conversations of, outside of what they granted to the nonprofits through that $1 million process, what's remaining and can we be a part of that? Which I agree with what you're saying, Jamie, as far as we kind of have that thought process as well.
I mean, to me, I think that ARPA is certainly the categories such as recreation, tourism, so on, you know, I mean, the allocation the county's doing to Governor Dick and LVRT falls squarely under the recreation, because that is something that, if you tie it to COVID, outdoor recreation is clearly, you know, out of COVID, something that people did more of, and that's what the legislation acknowledges. But again, it's a direct owned asset. I mean, just as the city's doing $1 million toward fire trucks are an owned asset, and it's, you know, it's public safety, so it falls in the category. So.
Well, if I may, all this talk is making me think, if we're taking $19,500 from our general fund for Coleman Park, which is clearly a draw from the fireworks to the ball games to the musical activities, etc., why don't we save that money in our general fund budget and take that from hotel tax? I mean, it's something to consider. And I know that's outside of your ask,
that-
but the conversation leads me, I don't want to lose that thought, to put it on the table for consideration.
And I don't think I gave you a chance to answer about what the ask is.
Yeah, I was gonna say.
I mean, the ask
I
would
didn't
be
get
for
the
all
number.
of it, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Really?
So 340 or whatever.
Well, at the same
Yeah.
time, we're throwing some ideas out there and some projects that we'd like to see, and we kind of
I'd like
informed
to
you.
see the city fund it.
Yeah.
Sure.
Well,
We'd like to
can we
see
just
anybody
stay with
fund
your
it.
requesting us to consider these?
Yeah.
these-
Yeah, that,
It's
you know,
just been, it's,
We
yeah,
can keep banging on the city and keep
Sure.
going back.
This
and
is-
And I
back.
feel compelled to
Yeah,
say
I-
one last time
I
that
don't think that's
the
appropriate.
city, we are contributing. We contribute yearly. We contribute throughout the year with different things. You know, it is our park, and we do understand that. We're coming to the county commissioners, to all of you as a regional asset for passive and active activities. We're looking for help. The city, when we've gone to them, they've given what they can, and they are helping. We are strapped as well, and I know everyone is. So,
But they have millions and millions of dollars. I want to see them use that up front.
again, the ARPA funds that we've dedicated them through our program to nonprofits, and those are being given out right now, Commissioners.
So has the city exhausted all their?
I don't know that they've exhausted all of it, but a good portion of it through the grants that they were giving out to nonprofits.
But that's 1 million, and I think they got, nobody has the exact number. Is it 13 million they got? Is it 18 million? That's a lot of money.
And that's something for me to look into.
Okay.
So the ask is 340 or 350?
This
Yeah,
is
these are
340.
340.
Or Bob said it could come down to 180 instead of the 120.
that was talking to me as far as combining the bathroom.
Yeah, the
and
120
Yeah,
and the
it's
150 would be 270 down to.
240 is the ask.
That's the conservative.
No, that's not right. If they combine that, 120 and 150 is 270, so it's gonna come down 90,000, so they're
That was
really
the number
asking
that I
for
put out as
250.
far as what
Maybe.
number that we had an
260.
engineering firm put together a couple years back on what the combination would cost. So that would have to be reevaluated as well. So I'm not sure if that 180 would be a solid number today. I don't know if that goes to 270 or not, but the 180 might be a little flexible with cost of materials now and everything else that's taken place over the last year or two with the economy. So that's the overall ask is what we have here, and then of course, like I said, we're here just trying to lay the foundation for what we'd like to do, put it under the consideration of the commissioners, and appreciate anything that the commissioners can do for us.
Well, I wanna see what the city's gonna do first.
Okay, and I don't need to see what the city's gonna do first, as I've repeated. I'm gonna consider this on its face, that you guys are doing the best you can to get the money that you can from the city as well.
Yes.
And so, I'm not gonna play rope-a-dope with this thing to say, well, let's go send you back to the city and then we'll reconsider. I wanna consider it on the face of what you have thoughtfully put together. with your volunteerism, your professionalism, and let's, you know, and if I can't get any other support, but I just want to know that's I'm not going to be burdened by the cities. You know, I'm assuming they're going to do the best they can because it's an asset for everybody. So
I can assure you that I'm in discussion with the mayor about additional funds for the park. We're coming into our budget time period.
DCNR has money, the city has money, it shouldn't come all out of the county
Right,
funds.
and that's all on our list. So,
I'd like to see numbers concrete in writing.
If I may ask, how much is left in the county's bucket?
$2.5 million, I think. Not anymore?
About 1.9.
What?
1.9?
About
1.9?
1.9. Yeah, the fair and the expo came back, revised theirs. I have in that still an amount that the rail trail initially gave you, but has at this point encumbered 400 of it. Initially they came in, I think, at 1.4 or something like that. So I know they have other projects, and I'm subtracting that whole amount that they originally talked about. So.
And should you be successful in getting 340 or some percentage of that, when would some of these projects begin getting done? Would it be next spring or?
I mean, we'd have to, you know, then get into the details what, you know, what the exact plan looks like, get some pricing in, and we could execute it next year.
We could
I
easily,
would
I
sure
think
hope
so.
so.
Yeah.
I would sure hope you'd be seeing some of these things happen in the next year or
Yeah.
two for sure.
And
we're
also,
gonna be
don't
doing-
overlook Jamie's comment about grouping this with that garage
Mhm.
and applying for the DCNR money and having this as a match to that. You know,
I mean, that'd be awesome if that's.
Yeah.
if we
I
could
mean,
go
don't
to that.
don't overlook that.
How long?
If you're gonna show us how to do it, that'd be awesome.
Well,
I'm not the one that does that.
well, the
Right.
city.
The grant
You need a
writer
Tom
should be able
Kotek.
to work it.
We would do that with the,
Well, actually, the city,
With the help of the city,
Janelle
Janelle,
Mendoff with
yeah.
the city,
Yeah.
she handles grant applications that the city submits to any agency. So Janelle would put the application together if we would go through DCNR or any other agency. So they have someone that'll take care of that. That's at no cost
Right.
to the park. That's basically just basic city operations. But if we would do that, whatever number, if it would come from the county, I know with the hotel tax fund, we had, I think, a 24-month window that you have to utilize. You have to spend the money.
Grow your
So-
money.
so
Grow
what-
your money. You know, match it up.
But if we
That's what
would
we do
match
with
it,
farmland.
but if we took this grant, now of course, if you apply for a grant with DCNR, you're usually applying in the springtime. So if you get money in the fall, you're only applying in the spring, and then you're only finding out typically at the end of the following year.
But
So
I
that
think there's a grant round right now, isn't there?
at one point they had condensed it into a one time. They used to do spring and fall, then they just did spring. But so you do an application, then and until they decide, you almost lose a whole calendar year. So my question was, if you get an allocation, what's the time frame on you using the money so that if you use it for a match, you don't run out of
But
time
with
after
the
12
ARPA money,
months?
they have extra, and I think they've stepped up their program.
Okay.
Is it 2024 that it has to all be used?
Yeah, that was just one final question I had is since scheduling came up and you talked about when these would be programmed in, you know, it would have to be before the end of 2024.
Well, I don't think that would be an
Yeah,
issue.
that
If we
would
went
be an
into not a planning, but into a design and construction mode, that would be doable. If we get into using a chunk of money to go towards the grant process, we got to evaluate their cycles and then how long it takes them to provide those funds, so that we don't get into 24 and we're still waiting on monies and construction, and we don't get to the finish line before the monies have to be used. That's my main.
And one of the
concern
items,
is-
you know, when I spoke to Lori Yike with DCNR is because of the age of this site plan, you know, 2011, we would be looking at new studies, so a lot of preliminary stuff, which would be, I'm still trying to figure it out. I'm trying to get more involved in it, but
Yeah, some of the initial
that would-
feedback we
that would
got
be-
from them was that you did the master plan. It was partially funded by the county through the county comp plan fund years gone by in the late 2000s, DCNR money, city monies. Well, now the plan, we've accomplished a decent number of smaller items in the plan, but now the plan's over a decade old, And then when you talk with DCNR, they talk about, well, if you want to accomplish some more things, you probably need to update your plan
the
and your
plan.
feasibility and stuff. So then if you have to do more planning, then that takes the construction phase and kind of pushes it.
But if you can
Down the road a
demonstrate
little.
you're implementing your existing plan, you wouldn't have to.
And I think
bring-
that this would help
Yeah.
us go down, get to that point.
Yeah.
I
Well-
think I heard DCNR's position is that you need a fresher plan before they'll look at.
Yes.
I don't know that,
Yes, that's what
She heard that.
what
You
Lori
got that
was,
right
from Lori said.
was discussing.
Maybe that's not that
Yeah.
difficult.
Yeah.
Maybe an
Public
update.
input.
Maybe an update's not that.
Maybe an update, yeah.
You know, public. I know she definitely talked about public input.
yeah, public
The new
input is one
plans
thing,
and-
you can
yeah.
do a survey online and get that. You know, that can be done in a week or 2 weeks.
I know there was more than just the public input that she would want to see, that DCNR would want to see. So, and again, not that we're not going to go down that road. That's going to be future. We're going to have to get some of the dollars we need for carriage house maintenance.
Yeah, the planning side will have to be revisited at some point in time. Like I said, my main concern was if we're coming to the end of 2022 and you have to expend your monies on a construction part of this by the end of 2024, if we have to go through some extra steps and plannings and then a grant cycle with the state using it for just matching monies, are we going to be able to accomplish all that and get something implemented at the park within that 2-year time frame?
Be aggressive.
I don't know.
Be aggressive.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe not. But that's
So then
That's
does
why I
the
brought that.
340 accomplish, without any other factors, does the 340 get those projects done?
They really only need 250.
yeah.
Can
it
they
gets-
answer the question, please?
Yeah.
It would, it
Yes.
should be yes.
I would
We'll be
say
able
yes to
get
that.
these
I would say
specific
yes.
yes done.
Anything else? Not, gentlemen, thank you for your volunteerism again. and
All
for
right.
putting this
Thank you for
together.
your time.
Good to see you all.
Sure.
Thank
Jamie,
you.
thank you.
All right.
Get somebody's list, I don't have the list of what your projects are.
Do you want me to provide that here, Dave?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah, I
Yeah.
wrote it
Yeah.
on it.
Yep.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank
That's
you
fine.
very much, thank you.
Another one.
Yeah.
Here, you can have that.
Oh, yeah, great.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you.
I don't have anything more other than your packet for tomorrow. Pretty straightforward meeting tomorrow. The biggest event being the second quarter pension update. I'm sure they're probably not looking forward to giving those numbers, but
Well, it's
it has to
come
happen.
back a little bit.
It has in this quarter, when they give you the current
Yeah.
current number, yeah. The end of June's gonna be ugly, the end of the quarter. And then Aaron's got a number of things. The one thing I'll just point out is, there is one item, Rebecca Davis, we added that here this morning. And that she's gonna talk about the county jail, an amendment to the county jail MAT program, which was the topic of discussion at today's prison board, but it's not, they're
The
two
same,
different.
yeah.
This is the present MAT program, and simply the provider that was doing the assessments couldn't do it any longer, and so now we've cobbled together another solution, but it needs to be amended to recognize that different provider, that's all that is.
Looks like they ran into staffing issues.
Yeah,
I
so
knew I should've come.
just didn't want you to, I didn't want it
I
to be.
knew I should have come to prison board today.
I didn't want it to look like, hey, you just talked about something today and it's and it's Friday tomorrow. This is an interesting thing. So that's all.
Did you record prison board? Oh, aren't you a saint?
So
I'll have to watch that.
Do a split vote.
that's all I've got.
Okay.
I think you have appeals tomorrow afternoon. is that
Yes.
right? Yeah. Okay.
Thank you for
See you, Laura.
All
coming,
right. See you,
Laura.
Laura.
We adjourn?
See you in the morning.
Is there more?
That's it.
No
Okay.
more.
Stand adjourned.